And so you routinely conduct education for physicians and professional associations, and you speak a lot on this topic, whether it's, avoiding sanctions, avoiding, what's the word that I want? Board action.
Yep.
So can you tell us a little bit about, some of the common themes or maybe the top 2 or 3 bullet points that you always want to make sure that your audience walks away with after you've done one of these sessions?
So you know how in real estate, they say there are 3 things to real estate: location, location, location.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
my 3 things are document, document, document. There are other things that I'm going to talk about, but documentation, whether it be a malpractice action, whether it be a board action, if it is the hospital saying, for example, a hospital can do an audit and say, you have more adverse outcomes than anyone else. And we're going to bring you up because, you're driving up our malpractice premiums, or, there's just too many problems here. Well, if you've documented that this was a high-risk patient, that you went through informed consent, that they said, you know what, I know the risk is potential A, B, C, D, even death, when sometimes that is a risk, you can then support the idea that everything is in order. I can't pre-manage the outcome, just like you can't. You can't control the market.
Right.
You can just say, I've given my client informed consent, and then they make the decision. I go through a very detailed informed consent process saying, these are your alternatives, these are your options, and with it is a different risk profile. And if you're risk averse, I'm not going to recommend that you do something super risky, even though you might end up, wow, that was a dismissal. I'm good to go. I might say, let's go ahead and negotiate a consent order that, even though it might not be perfect and you get a public reprimand, we stop the bleeding and you get to go on and do what you do. Because if you hate the risk, then I don't want you to be distracted for a year while we fight this thing in court. So I would say documentation has saved so many of my clients, and unfortunately has sunk many of my clients, because they'll say, but I talked to the patient about this and this is what they said, and they told me that they wanted to go forward and they knew this was a risk. And I say, but there's only 2 lines in your medical record. All that happened, but you didn't write it down. And a lot of times what they say is, well, I can either treat the patient or treat the record, but I don't have time to do both because I have so many patients who need me. And I sympathize with them.
Right.
And I just say, well, now that we know, let's change your record keeping going forward.
Right. And there are tools that I've heard of to help, like with scribing and to just help them be more efficient in those ways.